If anybody's been collecting passport stamps, on page 222 of your planner, there's a little passport for the how-to sessions. The more stamps you get, the more likely you are to win more gift certificates in a tablet. So if anybody had been collecting passport stamps at the end of the presentation, I'll stamp your passport. All right? Yep. Where do I go? This is pretty good. Is it like 5:30 already?
Yeah, it's 5:32, I think.
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna sit and get out of the way. And then
Okay.
should I like sit on a garbage can in the corner? Yeah. Just don't tell the fire alarm. Yeah. So there's gonna be a tension right here on that side. So that can find.
So just promise me, everyone, that if the fire alarms go off, we will all get up carefully and walk out the doors, okay? Because we are totally over our legal limit. So don't tell on us.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get started because my goal is to have us out of here no later than 6:30. Depending on how we go, we might get out a little bit earlier. My name is Carrie Fishner. I am the director of the library here on campus. I am one of 4 librarians here at Delhi. There's myself, Amanda Calabrese, who is our online librarian, so you won't see her on campus. She works with us remotely. Jennifer Collins, Steve Dixon, and Caitlin Baruti are the other librarians. So we are, most of us, the 4 of us on campus are located. 2 of us have offices downstairs, 2 have offices upstairs, and we are here to help you. Okay, that's we're going to talk about research today and easy and quick ways to really evaluate the sources that you're finding and the best places to look for information. But if you run into problems, if you're struggling, if you can't find what you're looking for, you really come see us, okay? That's our job. We're really great at finding information. I'm not going to do a whole lot today on, figuring out a topic or using keywords to search. We're really focusing purely on the evaluation of resources today. So if you need help with those other areas, please, please, please come and see us, okay? All right, so CRAAP, right? It's a great word. It's a great way to remember what we're going to be talking about. Has anybody heard of fake news? Yeah, everybody has, right? It's huge. We hear about it all the time. Fake news has been around since there have been sources of information. And librarians have been battling it since librarians began back in like 800 BC or something when the Library of Alexandria was around. Our job is to help you find information that is good information. And so that's really what we're going to talk about today is when you find that article or you find a website that looks too good to be true, how do you tell if it is good or if it is too good to be true? So that's where we're going. So what is CRAAP? It's a really simple test. It's easy to remember. It's 5 questions that you need to ask whenever you're looking at a source. Uh-oh. Hold on. There we go. So CRAAP is an acronym. So each of the letters, the first letters stand for something, okay? So currency, that's our first word. We want to know the timeliness of the information. And we're going to go a little more in depth on each of these. Relevance, the importance of the information as it meets your needs. Authority, who wrote it? Where did the information come from? The accuracy, is the reliability, the truthfulness, or the correctness of the content. And then the P, which is the purpose, the reason the information exists. Okay? So why do you think we want to ask those questions? We have to have reliable sources, right? Most of you are here because you have a research assignment. And when we have a research assignment, our instructors say you need to have reliable sources. And they want them to come from specific types of areas. They want it to be information that you can show is really good information. So by asking these 5 questions, you can almost guarantee that your instructors are going to accept those sources for your research. I can make this PowerPoint available to people after the fact if you'd like. We can try to put it up on the website or something so it's available if you want to look at it. So don't worry about, you know, scrambling too hard to write every last word down. If you miss something, we'll get it to you. So currency. When was the information published or posted? So if you're looking at a website, you want to look for those telltale little copyright signs on the bottom or last updated. It should be somewhere on there. You should be able to find something that tells you when this was put out there. If you're looking at a journal article, what was the date it was published? This is important for a couple of reasons. One, you want to make sure that somebody's still paying attention to it if it's a website, right? We want to make sure that the information is still relevant, that things haven't changed, particularly if you're in a science. Things happen so quickly in science and technology, and so oftentimes your instructors are going to be asking you to look for sources that are within the last 5 years or the last 10 years. Only when you're doing historical research are you really going to look at anything that's older than that. Has the information been revised or updated, or did somebody just put it out there on that website and leave it? And that was 15 years ago. Okay. Is the information current or out of date? Again, that comes back to kind of depending on what you're using the information for. Is it historical or is it current research? And if it's a website, are the links still functional? That's usually a good indicator. If there are broken links, if things aren't working, that's usually a red flag. Now, 1 or 2 red flags may not mean that it's a bad source, but it's something to keep in mind. So relevance. As you're looking at the information in this resource, does the information relate to you or answer your question? Or are you looking for background information? You're kind of looking at that information. You want to look at what there is. If you're looking at a journal article, you don't have to necessarily read the entire article to get a good feel for it. Oftentimes you can look at the abstract, that summary, and say, okay, this has some good information. I think this is what I'm going to want to look at. Who is the intended audience? Who is this information written for? Was it written for lay people, so people who aren't necessarily experts in the field, or was it written for other experts in the field? Is the information at an appropriate level? So again, this kind of goes to, what are you using the information for? Are you looking for background information? You want to use it to help you explain something, or you really want to get into like the tiny details? And have you looked at a variety of sources? Is this the only thing you found? Or are there multiple things and they all are saying something similar or are giving you pieces that all fit together? When you're looking at relevance, is this something that's completely different from everything else that you've read on this topic? That would be a red flag, okay? Authority. Who is the author, publisher, source, or sponsor? What makes them an expert? Are the author's credentials or organizational affiliations given, and if so, what are they? If you're looking at a website, does it list an author, or does it tell you who sponsored that information? Or is it just a website that's out there that you found? Is it a .org, a .edu, a .gov, a .com? Paying attention to that domain name can give you some clues. Oftentimes, we are more likely to accept sources that are a .gov or a .edu. Sometimes a .org. It really depends on what information you're using it for. Again, what are the author's qualifications? Do they have a PhD? Do they have a medical doctorate? Are they someone who works in the field on a daily basis? I can go out there and I can create a website pretty easily. I can use one of the free website generators. I fed an elephant at the Buffalo Zoo. It was really cool. She was really big. I could go out and I could say, I am an expert on elephant care because I fed an elephant. And I could probably make a really awesome looking website because I know how to, you know, save photos and do all cool things, and I can put all sorts of graphics up there. And I could write this whole spiel about the care of elephants and how they need to eat these giant crackers, and that's what's the most nutritious thing they could eat. But I have absolutely no qualifications, right? But I could make a really good looking website. So you have to look for those clues. Did I put on there that I am a librarian and not a pachyderm expert? You know, does it say that I am affiliated with a zoo or with a research foundation? You know, what kinds of things does it say about me as an author? So you want to look at those about sections. Who is putting this information out there? Accuracy. So where does the information come from? Did they make it up, like I did about my elephant and his crackers? Or is it supported by evidence? Is the author citing other works? Are there works cited? Are there references at the end of it? Has it been reviewed? And by whom? Scholarly journals, peer-reviewed journals, are things that are published after the information that's contained in them has been reviewed by other experts in the field. So if I'm really an expert in elephants, I would have had other experts review my information before it was published and put out there, because I wanted others to know that, yes, this is good information. So look for that. Is it reviewed by other people? Can you verify any of the information in another source? So again, we go back to where we were talking about relevance, is if something sticks out and is completely different from anything that you've seen on this topic elsewhere. So can you find corroborating evidence? Does it talk about it somewhere else and say the same thing? Does it come across as unbiased? So is there an agenda? Can you see something that says like, oh, this is trying to tell me one thing or another? Which plays into our last acronym letter, which is the P for purpose. So what is the purpose of the information? Why has this information been published or released? Is it fact? Is it someone's opinion? Is it propaganda where they're trying to sway you one way or the other? Is the information objective and impartial? Does it give you two sides of a story? Or does it try to tell you like, oh, this is really, really good and this is why, but not tell you about any of the bad things, right? If we look at websites, a lot of times we'll find that they're sponsored by a company. Why did they do that? Was it research? Why did they sponsor this research? Also on an article. Is it because it's a drug research company and they want you to buy a specific medication and they want you to give that to your patients? Is it because this is a website that has a certain the author has a political belief and they want you to also have that political belief and they want you to believe and espouse the same things that they're talking about? Okay? So you really need to ask those questions. Now, you can use a biased source. You just have to be aware that it's biased and counterbalance it depending on what you're doing your research on, right? So you need to pay attention to that and be aware of it. So those are the 5 questions that we want to ask, right? We want to talk about the currency, the relevancy, the authority, the accuracy, and the purpose. So now that we have all 5 of those, how do we actually put it into use? What are we going to do with it? Well, we're going to look at things on the internet. There's so much out there. People are experiencing information overload. It's a ridiculous amount of information that's put out every minute of the day. So when we look at things, we really need to try to be objective and we need to ask ourselves these questions. So these are a couple of headlines that I pulled off of these 2 websites last week. So they're recent. And actually, I saw this Secret Heir Steals the Throne on like the National Enquirer or something, or one of those magazines at the checkout at Price Chopper the other day too. So this is information that's out there. It's big headlines. We see it in our Facebook feeds. We see it, you know, pop up on newsstand magazines on the cover. They're catching, right? They catch your attention. You look at it. But if you don't take it with a grain of salt and you don't do a little investigation, you can get really burned with the information that you're using. So we're going to actually practice. I have 3 websites that we're going to take a look at, and we're going to ask those 5 questions, and we're going to look for where do we find that information on these websites. All right. So hopefully all my links work without any issues. Maybe, or not. So we'll do it. Oh, there we go. All right, so the endangered Pacific Northwest tree octopus. I hear giggles. This is one of my favorite websites. So the tree octopus gives us a Latin name. Can be found in the temperate rainforests of the Olympic Peninsula on the west coast of North America. Talks about the Olympic mountain range and how they're solitary cephalopods, gives an average size. It talks about the intelligence, their brain to body ratio. And as we look down, we'll see that there's a map, talks about why they're endangered. We have a Saturday Cascadia Evening Post, that shows an octopus hat from 1923, which is part of why they're endangered, because they were hunted. We have a little ribbon that you can add to your social media. It's a pretty cool little tentacle ribbon. There's a gift shop. There's all sorts of things down here. So this is a well-built website, right? Got a lot of information. It's telling me all sorts of good stuff. There's pictures. I can click on to some of the links here. There's a video of a tree octopus climbing the tree. They're hard to spot. It's pretty cool. There's a bird of prey with a tree octopus there. So we're seeing all sorts of things here, right? There's a September 19th, 2017. They just found something that they've posted, so it's being updated. So it's a current website. But let's look in to see who actually posted this. So if we scroll down, there's a whole bunch of pictures here. I want to find that about information. So here it has an update. Okay, there's another website on the tree octopus. Down here on the bottom, we can see that it was created in 2001. It has an update of 2012, but yet we saw something on there that was 2017. So that's, we'll look at that. So let's go to we go back to the about. No, we're back here. So we need to ask those questions. Are we finding anything about the author of the page? No. So we don't know who this is that put this out here, right? There's a name down on the bottom. Oh, here we go. Lyle Zapato. So it's not affiliated or associated with any school or educational organization other than the Wild Haggis Conservation Society. And it does not want to be confused with the Pacific Northwest octopus tree. But we're still not getting a lot of information, right? It's not giving us, like, this person is an oceanographer, who we might think of as normally working with a octopus. So how do you feel about this website? Totally legit, right? So, it's Zapato Productions, Interdimensional. So let's click that. So here it brings us out here, and it talks about all sorts of things. It's pleased to offer you a wide selection of amazing discoveries, important theories, all sorts of stuff. Browse through the website. It's talking about his content. There's an FAQ. So let's go back here, and we're going to look at the FAQ and see if there's anything. Talks about the octopus, talks about the plural, other languages, rainforest. So I'm finding all sorts of things here. Oh, here we go. Propaganda from textbook publishers. It's talking about things. So again, a little bit questionable, right? We're not finding anything here to tell us that this is an authoritative website. It's well made. but we're not seeing some of those things that we wanted to find, right? We're not finding any author. We're not finding a purpose. The currency is questionable. There's some current things. There's some things that aren't good on there. Now, I hope you all realize that there are no such thing as the Northwest Pacific tree octopus. As far as I know, octopi do not live outside of the water other than for short times when they can, in fact, escape, and they are well-known escape artists. There's an aquarium in Georgia that had one that kept getting out and letting other things out. But this isn't a real website, all right? So we looked for some of those questions and we couldn't find the answers. Several red flags. So probably not a good site to use. So if we go back, and let's take a look at the RYT Hospital Research Center. Let's run Flash here. There we go. So, appears to be a hospital website. But as we start looking into it, let's see what we can find. So there's some interesting information there. So let's look at About Us. Doesn't work. So that's a red flag. I can't find out anything. What about research? Another red flag. So that was one of our questions, right? Do the links work? Here we have some sort of pill with Novartis that they have a completion of phase 2 clinical trials for a new anti-sleep medication. Anti-sleep. Here they're saying they're going to be at John Jay College. Is anybody familiar with John Jay College? It's criminal justice, right? Probably not associated with medical research. And when I clicked the link, it didn't take me anywhere. So again, there's some more questions. So if we scroll down, oh, we see a disclaimer. Let's check that. No, took us right back up here. So again, there's a lot of things that are questionable here. It looks good when you first look at it, right? But the links aren't working. We're not finding anything about who the author is or where it's coming from. We're not seeing any dates on it. There's a privacy notice, but again, even though it looks good that those are down there, they're not taking us anywhere. And again, there we go. The link's not working. So again, another questionable website where there's not a lot on there. Now, maybe I was looking for information on something to do with sleep or sleep disorders, and I see this might pop up in my search if I did a quick web search, a Google search. So you have to be discerning. You have to really pay attention to things, all right? So it's a .com, which is sometimes a .net. So neither of those are what we would call a really great domain name. Those are usually ones that we're going to look at a little bit more closely because anyone can purchase them. So we have another one here that we're going to look at quickly. So this is ChooseMyPlate.gov. So .govs typically are going to be good resources. They're regulated, but let's take a look at it and see how it does with our CRAAP test. So we can come down toward the bottom, link to the USDA.gov. There's a bunch of information. Here's an About Us. So let's take a look at that one. USDA Center for Nutrition and Policy and Promotion. Okay, so that's probably a good sign. It's affiliated with them. It has links to it. We click on the link. Let's see if it actually is working. Oops. I think it opened up another screen under there, but if I go to it, my Zoom meeting keeps popping up. So it looks like that link is working. We come down here. You can see all sorts of stuff. So all the links appear to be working. When we go to look at Contact Us, again, that's working. There's graphics, permissions. It gives us an actual address. It was updated about a year ago for the About Us or the Contact Us. So it looks like there might be some good information on this website, and it looks so far it's matching up. We've got authority, so we can see that it's from the USDA. We can see that the purpose they stated was that they're trying to provide information for nutrition. to everybody. So they're answering that question. It doesn't appear to be super biased. You can break it down by audience. So you can look at different information sets for different audience people. So you're going to have different language probably used. So far everything on this one looks like it's checking out. So again, when we come back to the About Us, more links that are working. So I would say that would be a good source. But can you see how there's differences there? When we look at those, we could quickly and easily find some of those things on some sites and not on others. Some sites we were able to find where we were looking. So those are some websites. Now, if you're looking at journals and we want to find an article, you can ask the exact same questions to find what you want. However, there's a trick when you're looking for journal articles. If you go to the library's website and you type in your topic, we're going to stick with nutrition on this one. All of these things that come up in this search are, I would say, 90% of the time going to be reliable resources. Because the library is actually paying to collect these things through our databases to provide it to you so that you don't have to spend as much time going through and looking for this information. Now, typically though, when you use this, you're not going to find websites. You're instead going to be finding journal articles and you're going to be finding ebooks. You still need to look at them to see if they're going to be relevant to the information that you're looking for or to your search. But you're not going to have to go through. So we have some films and video recordings. We do have Associated Press. And then we have articles. So if I click on an article and I want to look for that information. So there's my authors. Here it tells me what their affiliations are, right? So there's one of my questions. Currency, it's going to tell me when it was created. So this one was a 2017 publication date, so within the last few months. It gives me an abstract, so it's going to talk about a summary of the information that's contained within this article, within this piece of information, so I can see if it's relevant to what I want, right? So now we've covered currency, we've covered relevance, we've covered authority. In terms of accuracy, as I look at this, I'm going to see that this is from the Bulletin of the World Health Organization, and it's from one of the library websites, so it's going to be considered a scholarly journal. Now, it does not say right here whether it's peer-reviewed or not. However, if I went into the look at the journal itself, I could see if it was a peer-reviewed, so I could see if other experts reviewed it. But it's oh, no, it says it right there. I apologize. So it's peer-reviewed. So it answered that question for us. And then the purpose is they were looking for public health and policy making. All right. So that answered all 5 of our CRAAP, and I could see all that on one screen. I didn't have to click around. I didn't have to look at things. The other advantage of using the library's databases, particularly when you're looking for scholarly resources, is that it will cite it for you. So you don't have to create your own citation. So when we click on the Cite button, we can scroll down and we can find an APA and the MLA, or Tarabi in Chicago if you need that one. All you have to do is copy and paste that into your Works Cited. All right, and then it will be there for you. You still have to do your own in-text, but you can create that right from that one right there. So it gives you a lot of options by using the library's website. So if we go back to our testing and we wanted to look at something else, I'm just going to go back to the result list for a moment. It also gives us books that are available, and it gives us ebooks. I just want to find one. Let me see if I can find it. All right. So there's lots of things that you can do. The important thing is that you want to ask those 5 questions whenever you're reviewing information. And again, use the library because we do have things that are going to pass that CRAAP test that are all spelled out for you. When you go on to a web search and you're in Google and you're looking for a website or other information, how many results come up? A lot. Yeah. Hundreds, thousands, millions, right? And sometimes to find the good websites, the things that are going to pass your CRAAP test, you're going to have to go through and click through multiple pages. Google does not make things easy sometimes because they accept money, and there are ways to kind of scam the system so that the things that come up first have the most clicks, or they're sponsored, they're paid to show up there. So it's not always the best information that comes up first. So that's really why we have to ask those 5 questions anytime that we go and we look into what we're looking for, okay? It is pretty much the end of that. Does anyone have questions as you're looking into information, if you're looking for what you want to use?